More than 15,000 people have managed to escape that part of the country over recent days, but government officials say hundreds of thousands are still trapped, and they are accusing the rebels of using civilians as human shields. The two sides have been fighting for more than a quarter century over a separate Tamil nation in the country. And for more on the government of Sri Lanka's position, we spoke earlier to Bandula Jayasekara. He is the Sri Lankan Consul General in Toronto. We begin by asking him to respond to criticism that the Sri Lankan government has been using heavy-handed tactics.
The innocent Sri Lankans have suffered in the hands of this brutal terrorist organization, the Tamil Tigers. What the government is doing is liberating them from the clutches of the Tamil Tigers. What's happening is the last phase, because most of these people, like we liberated the east from the Tamil Tigers, now we are liberating the north and most of the little area which they are coming, which they have been used as human shields for several years by the Tamil Tigers.
Now, if that's the case, and if you are liberating these parts of the country, why not open it up? Why not let journalists go in and see firsthand what's going on?
No, because what happens is finally what the unfortunate situation is, there are groups, there are journalists have gone in, like there have been Canadian journalists who have gone in, like from the National Post, Al Jazeera has been in, BBC has been. So what happens is, same way what we have had situations like some time ago where Marie Colvin, a British journalist, came. She was attacked really by the LTTE, and we cannot take responsibility. Something goes wrong, they will blame, it's easy to blame the government. But right now what happens is we are concerned about our people. We want to liberate them, and they are moving into the safe zones.
Now you said you want to liberate them, but you know the part of a free press is to go in and to monitor these things and to show these things, and if that's the case, and if there are no heavy-handed tactics going on, why not open it up for those journalists who are willing to take those risks and show the world what's going on?
But it's happening right now. It is not, we can't, you know, what happens is we are trying to protect the civilians, and we can't, you know, take responsibility to protect the journalists. Something goes wrong, it is always twisted back. But still, you can see, get reports from the conflict zone. I don't call it war because the war is between two countries.
Let's talk about humanitarian access. There's been a lot of criticism against the Sri Lankan government for denying humanitarian access to these regions. I want to give you a chance in front of our whole viewing audience to respond to those accusations.
And I tell you this, the Sri Lankan government is the only government which has fed a brutal terrorist group which has been killing our people for the last 25 to 30 years. There's no, which government has fed the terrorists, paid salaries and looked after the people who's waging the brutal conflict, which we have done for the last 30 years, which the world should know that. And this is exactly what we've been doing, even right now. Even while we are being attacked, we are sending food convoys and all that is being there. The world, this is time the world should know that.
You know, you say this on the one hand, but on the other hand, there have been a case where there's been a Sri Lankan member of parliament who's come out and said, we think we should expel the International Committee of the Red Cross. And the moment he does that, a mob of angry Sri Lankan citizens go to the Red Cross offices in Sri Lanka and throw stones at the office. I mean, how can you say on the one hand that you care about the civilian population when on the other hand, members of your own government are calling for the Red Cross to be expelled?
And can I say this, I hate to say this, but the same thing, you know, like you have a Charter of Rights, and you know, for what is happening in the parliament where the Liberal MPs are attacking Sri Lanka. So that's like your parliamentarians do. I mean, I wouldn't blame the government, but I would blame the opposition. It's the opposition MP who is doing that. The same thing what is happening, and then same way there are protests in front of the consulate. And not only protests, which we have faced people forcibly entering. And what do you say is Canada's Charter of Rights?
Let's talk about those protests. There have been protests all across Canada, but obviously, especially here in Toronto, there's a very, very large Sri Lankan expatriate population. Tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets here. Very well-organized protests, but they have taken to the streets with a single message that they want the Sri Lankan government to stop what's going on. What's your response to that? There's been a massive outcry with this.
No, this is orchestrated by the Tamil Tigers and their sympathizers. To me, all Tamils are not LTTE.
So I just want to jump in here for a second.
Yes.
You're saying that when tens of thousands of people take to the streets in Canadian cities, that's being organized and orchestrated by a terrorist group?
Yes, very much. And their front organizations.
You know, that's a very big claim that you're making. That's very bold. You're saying that tens of thousands of people are being orchestrated.
But yes, that is exactly what is happening. For the last 25 years, do you know that the Sri Lankan Tamils, a majority of them are their peaceful, they are my people. What happens is the brutal terrorist group has been controlling. Most of the funds went from here in Toronto to kill those innocent people. I mean, that's exactly why Canada banned the Tamil Tigers as a terrorist organization. Not only that, they banned the WTM, the World Tamil Movement, which was one of the fronts. So they have so many fronts. So it's very sad that right here in Toronto, those innocent Sri Lankan Tamils are suffering because they are scammed. They are scammed. My consulate pay over $40,000 of pension to these people. They come to the consulate for the people, and the majority of them are Sri Lankan Tamils. All these people, do you know that a Sri Lankan Tamil astrologer was brutally dragged out when he attended the Sri Lankan Day Festival at Harbourfront recently? Because he was astrologer, he was doing business, and they brutally dragged him out. That's what is happening right here.
All right, Mr. Jayasekara, these are certainly very contentious issues, but I'd like to thank you for coming in and giving us the Sri Lankan government's official position on this.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And there is still more to come on this edition of CBC News.